As this gets going, I doubt we'll see it make 50 years. Although
No,
it is
yes.
animated, so technically could live on
Yeah.
for 50 years.
No, very few shows, especially ones on network television, last 50 years. But of course, the exception that's been parading its 50 years all over the place this year is Saturday Night Live. Yes, bear with us. We've been talking a lot about Saturday Night Live in the last couple of weeks, but this will probably be the last time we talk about it for a couple of months, I would bet. At least a
Yes.
couple months, maybe longer. Yes, the big 50th anniversary special for Saturday Night Live finally happened on Sunday this past weekend. It was pretty similar to the 40th thing that they had done 10 years ago, where they just blocked out 3 hours, put in a bunch of like new sketches, bringing back old characters. Almost every old cast member you could potentially want to see was there. I say almost. And combined with some brief retrospective segments and just an overall vibe of, man, isn't this crazy that all these people are here at the same time? And yeah, I think it succeeded in doing those things. I think if that's what you wanted from a 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live, is a bunch of nostalgia, a bunch of names and faces that you haven't seen in a while, doing some classic characters, then this did deliver on that. As a piece of television, especially a piece of live television, it was sometimes very shoddy, sometimes very happenstance, sometimes very like hastily put together. Definitely felt like there was a lot of technical things happening in the background and things were going wrong. But then again, it wouldn't be Saturday Night Live if it didn't have that on the edge live experience with it. And I guess if that's part of the product, it delivered in that category too. Um, Overall, there's not that much I would say that I absolutely loved about it. I thought the cute thing they did at the beginning, having Sabrina Carpenter, the most recent musical guest, and Paul Simon, the first musical guest, do a duet together, was a neat full circle kind of feeling and a neat moment. And the joke about how when he said he performed that song in 1976, Sabrina Carpenter says, "I wasn't born then, and neither were my parents," which was a really funny line for her to say. Um, and yeah, some of the sketches I was happy to see back. I definitely don't know why they decided to bring back the prison sketch in the year of our Lord 2025. That was a choice. Um
It was
yeah.
because they had SNL cast members must want to plug their movies or their past movies, and that's a very easy way to do it.
Yeah, but I know, I get it. But at the same time, come on, guys. Anyway, yeah, like it felt a lot of people have noted this, and I don't know if I'm wholly on this mind or not. A lot of people noted that there was a sense of finality to it. I mean, why do you get Paul McCartney to do the Abbey Road medley that ends with famously the end,
Mhm.
unless you were trying to say this was the end of something, the end of an era? A lot of people are saying, well, clearly Lauren is done. Clearly, this means end of the 50th. Lauren is retiring and then finally going to hand over the torch. Um, I have my doubts. There's a lot of conversations about like what kinds of kind of sweetheart deals he has with NBC, maybe stuff that only he can do. And does that end when he retires? Say Tina Fey becomes the show, like basically becomes the Lauren Michaels figure and takes over the show. Does she have the same sway with the NBC execs that Lauren did? Can she get the budget to stay the same? There's a lot of very good questions that you should ask about that process. And also, no old white man wants to give of his power in the US anymore. That's not how it works. So I have my doubts about whether, I mean, he's Canadian, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I have my doubts about this being the end of Lawrence's tenure, but if it is, this was quite a note to go out on.
I mean, doing anything for 49 years in any position is quite an accomplishment. Yes, I am counting the 1 year he was gone, or I'm first admitting the 1 year is gone. But SL did hit 50. His child did hit 50 years, so it's it felt a lot like a 50th birthday, and then did like an anniversary where it's yes, bring all the people that you know from your life, everyone who's gone and done better things, come back and celebrate my birthday because you all spawned from me and I made you famous, my little puppets. But yeah, it's I think it was a lot more SNL of past than it was more of a celebration of SNL. That it was like, oh, I mean, you mentioned it like, oh, like all these classic sketches and characters being brought back from, I don't know, probably like more like the last 30 years, I would say, than the whole 50 years. So it's definitely something that I really noticed. Uh, but it was like I had fun watching it at least. Like it was fun watching like all these characters again, but for some reason the one that stuck out to me in the worst way was the Debbie Downer sketch. And not just because Jimmy Fallon was in it, but because the jokes that she said were the repeated jokes from the previous Debbie Downers, and it's like they just shoehorned it in and didn't try to come up with any new material for it. But other than that, it was weird having Lil Wayne as the musical guest with Paul McCartney also, especially since
Yeah,
like we mentioned, they had the SNL concert as well, which
right.
I felt like that would have been like you were to do all the musical guests and not SNL 50, which felt just like an anniversary episode rather than like specifically focusing on the sketches or the cast.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties, so
Yeah.
you're a little behind. You've been starting and stopping for me. But what I will say, trying to catch up, is yeah, I also thought the Lil Wayne thing was weird. I agree with you. Like, just put that stuff, silo that away in the concert special, I guess. It felt like we were getting the leftovers, and it was like, why are we doing this on this show? And yeah, I agree with the Debbie Downer sketch. That's also the vibe I got. Is like you can't just use the classic lines as a crutch here. This is not an original sketch at that point. And what a waste of Al Pacino, or not Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. And like he didn't need to be involved here. But yeah,
Yeah. But like we said on the other side, the SNL 50th concert was also made available. And I did not get a chance to finish watching that, but I did
yeah,
get to my favorite section of the night, which was the Lovely Island medley.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
so
I would just say if somebody out there hasn't watched it, to just watch the medley because that was the best part.
yeah. But yeah, otherwise just it felt like musical guests, musical acts, and nothing. I think it's a couple sketches here and there, but nothing like, oh, must watch TV or must
Right.
NBC must see TV.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, like I said at the top, like I think it did what it was supposed to do. It's just that the more of these they do, that's going to be diminishing returns because the older the show gets, that means fewer people are going to be able to be part of it. When we get to 60, a lot of these guys are not going to be around. Like, so you have to think about that. Like, at every time, you have to give people a reason to keep believing in the show as a continuous legacy and not just, man, wasn't 75 through 78 great? And they keep relying on that. And yeah, I think it's to these specials' detriment. But yeah.
Yeah.